Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. Welcome to the late June garden. I have so much I want to show you and tell you about, and I am pretty happy with the state of things these days. Let's start with the squash and zucchini. These plants have been producing for, I'm going to say, close to a month now. And yes, we've lost a few, we've had to pull them out. But all in all, we've had a great crop of both yellow squash and zucchini, and things are still going strong. I can't remember if I officially told you or not about my sister plants and what they turned out to be. Well, if I didn't tell you, I'll tell you now. They're yellow squash. I had a tomato, which is a cherry tomato, and what is now a yellow squash. I had another sister plant that is next door. It's a cherry, and I'm not sure where its sister went. It seems to be solo these days. But the third sister plant I have down below here, it is also a yellow squash, but it's a yellow squash and an eggplant, which has blooms on it, so that's a fantastic thing. Sitting just beside my squash and zucchini are my eggplants and peppers. These were the second batch that went into the ground, so they're a little younger than some others I'm going to show you in a minute. They're doing well, and they are in this shared bed. It was just an open spot I had. The ground was already primed and ready to put plants in, and when they needed to go in, it just seemed like the perfect place. So here we have tender eggplant and additional peppers. Behind me here are 2 rows of peppers. These are the older, slightly more mature peppers. It's a mixed variety. We have some serranos, we have one habanero, there are a couple different bells, one red, a couple green. I do have this Santa Fe pepper, but let me show you, I have a jalapeno. Have you ever seen a jalapeno pepper quite this large? They are like monster jalapenos. They're the biggest ones we've ever grown, which I think is kind of comical. They might be county fair worthy in a few weeks. So that's kind of funny. We're waiting for them to turn red, but I had to pick one and show you because I've never seen such a large jalapeno. But you can see we also have bell peppers that are ripening and growing at a rapid rate. And I'm gonna say just about all of our pepper plants have blooms on them. I even saw a small habanero at the far end there on the left, that shorter one. These are serranos in the center that are beginning to bloom. And again, there's that funny monster jalapeno. It's actually not a large plant, but the peppers themselves are really, really sizable. So where to next? I think I want to show you the eggplants. These were the original eggplants. They are quite substantial in size. They're full of blooms. And I don't know if you can tell, but you can actually see the brown ground. A few weeks ago, I did a video and everything was green. It was a sea of green here in the garden because we had so much grass. But as you can see, my husband and I have been very busy weeding, and you can now actually see the brown dirt. Just another look at these larger, more substantial eggplants. You can see that the leaves have been nibbled on. I am suspecting it's probably either a flea beetle, or we also are beginning to see Japanese beetles in the garden. So a good dusting of diatomaceous earth would not be a bad thing. But these eggplants that we started from seed are looking really good for this time of year. Moving on to our okra. This was another homegrown, started from seed crop. We even harvested these seeds ourselves from okra pods we grew last year. So they are totally 100% homegrown here. This first row of okra is lovely. It's robust. It's just, you know, fleshed out. It looks great. The row beside it is a little puny in comparison. I have no idea why. My only suspicion is that this row in the back, being at the farthest edge of the garden, just has not had the soil amended as much as this row that was a little closer to like the middle of the garden, which we've been tilling and amending for years. So I don't know if it's a nutrient difference. That's my, again, sneaking suspicion. Everything's growing, it is thriving, it will produce, but this first row is certainly going to be producing at a much sooner rate than the back row. We just finished weeding this far edge of the okra yesterday, and I've not yet finished laying cardboard, which is why it looks so different. But another thing I'll mention about the okra, a few weeks ago I was out here doing the first initial kind of rough weeding of these rows, And at that point, I did transplant a few of the super dense okra plants that were in this top row into the bottom row where there was a little more room. And I want to show you those now. I'm going to say it looks as though all of the transplants have made it, but they have definitely been stunted. So they're just adding to the kind of puniness that is the second row. But again, I do have hope and faith that everything will grow and mature and it will start to produce. It will just likely be a little later in the summer. Here you can see I have 2 transplants on the end. These are 2 of the original plants that were not moved. And then I have a few more transplants. They're just real stunted. They're very small. And the one here in the center barely has any life. However, I do think that is a new green leaf in the center. So there is hope for that plant. And again, there are 2 more transplants. So the transplants have made it, but they are definitely lagging big time. Whenever you are preparing to transplant young seedlings, it's always, advisable to do so when your soil is, damp and pliable and before the root structure becomes too significant. The ground, unfortunately, had been really, really hard and dry here, and the plants had gotten a little larger than what I would have considered was ideal to transplant, but I still wanted to thin them and give it a chance. And so luckily the plants have made it. But you can just see, they are not thriving near as much as the plants that had not been disturbed. Our leeks and shallots are looking really, really robust these days. They've grown so much in the last month. And some of the shallots are beginning to dry up on the tips, even though we've been having some regular showers. And if you look here, you can see where those pinkish bulbs are beginning to show themselves. So I think it will soon be time to consider harvesting our shallots once we see the green drying up a bit more. And the leeks will continue to grow a little longer. Moving on to my 18 or so cherry tomatoes. We have 2 rows of pretty densely planted cherries. And they were all transplanted out of the garden and planted back in the garden when we had a true intentional place for them. These are all volunteers from last year. We have found that cherries are extremely prolific and they have a tremendous will to live and can live through most anything. So these cherry tomatoes are full of blooms. They've been weeded, they've been trimmed a little, and now we're just waiting for them to finish ripening. There is one plant, though, in the sea of cherries that I think is not a cherry that I'm still waiting to see whether it's a Roma or a Rutger or just what. But let me show you that one very special tomato transplant that, again, is not a cherry. That would be this handsome guy right here. Not a cherry, only a few blooms. The cherries have blooms in clusters, and I see that there is one little tomato here. I don't know if you can really see, but its shape is a little more oblong. I'm suspecting it might be more of a Roma than anything else, which is exciting. We very much like having Romas for salsa. And this year, it might be the one and only Roma here in the garden. We grew so many tomatoes and we made so much salsa last year that we consciously chose not to plant Romas this year because we still, again, have so much salsa, which isn't a bad thing. It'll keep absolutely. But this year, rather than planting Romas, we decided to, again, give our homegrown cherries a good chance. And we started from seed a row of Rutger tomatoes. They're great because, yes, you could use them for salsa, but they make really great sandwich slices. They're not the giant beef steaks, but a good Rutger tomato is super tasty and it's like the perfect size for 1 or 2 sandwiches. And so that's what we have over here. I think we have 8 or 9 Rutgers plus that one Roma. And again, then, the 18 plus or minus cherries. I also have a few extra cherries kind of scattered around the garden. So I'm sure I have more than 20 cherries if you were to count each and every one that is kind of popping up here and there. So a lot of tomatoes, and we'll keep you posted on what we do with them because we will have to get creative with so many cherries. Something else I am doing today as I'm walking around the garden, I am inspecting my tomatoes to see if any of them have the bottom end or blossom end rot, people call it. When your tomatoes first start forming, if you see that they do have those kind of rotten bottoms to them, you can put a little calcium on them. You can spray them with a special, bottom end, blossom end rot spray. It's just a way of helping to amend the plant, the soil, so that you don't get those issues with your tomatoes. I do see one of my Rutgers seems to have a little bit of that bottom end rot or blossom end rot. You hear it called both things. So probably we will want to come out and either give them a little calcium or do something else. But you wouldn't want to lose your whole crop, because if you don't nip something like this, you'll end up losing the vast majority of your tomatoes to that. Here is an example of that bottom end or blossom end rot I was telling you about. I only see this on one plant, and once I stand up I'll show you. This is actually the one plant that I would say is not looking near as healthy as the others. Oftentimes if one plant has it, others will too, because generally it's a soil issue. So likely we will go ahead and just treat all of our tomatoes to be on the safe side. Next up on this garden tour are the sugar snaps. They're still doing really well. They're still producing. And just yesterday, I picked a sizable container of sugar snap peas. I'm actually really surprised, being how hot June has been and the fact that we're now at the very end of June, that I'm still getting sugar snaps. But hey, I'll take it. We blanch them, we freeze them, and we'll eat them all throughout the year. So it's been a really fantastic crop of sugar snap peas this spring. The string that I used to tie up my sugar snaps a few weeks ago has done a really great job. None of them have flopped over, even in some of these large storms that we've been having as of late. So that has just been a really, really great thing. I'm so glad I got around to tying them up. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but these were my sunflowers that I started from seed. These were the sunflowers that I transplanted into the corner, and so far we're already getting blooms, and it's not even the 1st of July. So sunflowers are really happy. The other thing I want to show you now, along the back edge of the garden, can you remember what I planted here? These are my sweet potatoes. These were our homegrown sweet potato slips that we planted. I finally got in here and weeded them. They had so much grass. There was grass everywhere. They're doing great. They're really just taking off. They were a little slow to get started, but now they're really growing at a rapid rate. And I'm beginning to thread the vines through my fencing here so that they can grow tall on a trellis line and not just kind of run amok, because sweet potatoes, much like pumpkins, tend just to kind of run here, there, and everywhere, and can really be a bit of a nuisance. So I'm really trying to grow them vertically as opposed to horizontally this year. So again, stay tuned and I'll keep you posted. But because they don't naturally have those little, gotta fly after me, runners that kind of grab onto the fencing themselves, I do have to thread them in and out. So again, it takes a little bit of work, but so far the plants are doing really, really well. And I think this method's gonna work. Here is a look at those sweet potatoes. You can see some of them are beginning to be threaded through the fencing. And every couple of days I do come out, because they're growing so fast that some of these runners are beginning to reach out away from the trellis line. And so I am going to come back and just kind of help to guide them back towards the trellis and eventually feed them so they can grow upwards. This one here is quite long. It's coming through the bottom, and I'm just going to help it back into the other direction. There. Again, you want to be gentle. I don't want to bust it or snap the vine or break the leaves. But you know, this is working well. Now that I'm done showing you our sweet potatoes and what we have going on there, I want to show you a few newer crops. Our green beans are right here in the silver planter. This is my first batch of beans. They're looking good. I've started weeding them, but I've not gotten very far. So these plants are coming along nicely. I will likely put a second batch of green beans next door in just a few weeks' time. I don't want them to be maturing too close together, because just the whole processing can take a fair amount of time, and I don't want to be overly bombarded with beans. So one batch and then another batch. But after the green beans, I want to show you our broccoli. Our broccoli was really great this spring. Oh, this reminds me, I'm just now seeing these are our collard plants. The collards, we started from seed. We had only 12 collard plants, I believe, and they have been very prolific. I mean, we have harvested batch after batch of greens, and you can clearly see here, I have plenty of leaves that are ready to harvest once again. Our broccoli plants have been so fun this spring. We have harvested not only the large heads, but several rounds of florets. I came through just yesterday and picked what will probably be the final round of little broccoli florets. I'll attach a picture of that now.
These small little broccoli florets and buds and bits, they make perfect little stir fries, and so all in all, it's been a fantastic crop of broccoli this year.
I'm so happy to report that we will have cucumbers. We had a hard go of it. This was the third time we tried planting them. The second time I've planted seeds in the soil proper, and these were new seeds, and the plants have finally done what we needed them to do. Really, the only thing that is left for us to do for the cucumbers is to put up the fence line. It will run along these T-posts. It's actually an L-shaped here. I have two kind of short rows of cucumbers, and this is where they were last year. Originally, I wanted to move them to a new place, and that just wasn't meant to be. And so here they are for the second year in a row. The second to the last crop I want to show you is our kind of started from seed, homegrown cabbage plants. They are beginning to form heads, and that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Some of the heads are actually quite sizable already, and so I think within the next week or two, we will be harvesting more fresh cabbage out of the garden. So again, not bad for almost July. The very last crop I want to show you, I don't know if you can tell, these little teeny green sprigs. Can you tell what they are? Corn. We have corn growing in the garden. We have unsuccessfully tried to grow corn a couple of years, and because we didn't have much luck, we actually didn't try for a few years, but my husband really wanted to try corn again. So we had this little patch of garden left, and that's what we've planted. I think we have 6 to 8 rows of corn. It's pretty densely spaced in here because, again, with a small patch of corn, when the wind blows, like those sugar snaps, you don't want them to get blown over. And they kind of need each other to help one another stand up tall. So we have intentionally planted them quite close together, and we'll keep you posted. A couple of years ago, the corn actually looked really good, and then we had raccoons that got into the garden, and they were just like peeling the corn off ear by ear. So that was really frustrating. So we'll see. Wish us luck with this crop as well, but that is something that is new for 2026. Thank you so much for joining me here in the garden today. As you can see, we've been really busy here in the garden throughout the month of June, and I'm going to say June's been pretty good to us. The garden is looking great. Tomatoes are coming in. It'll just be another week or two now before we start harvesting those. Eggplants have blooms. The cucumbers are coming up. We now have little teeny baby corn plants and green bean plants. So there's a lot of new stuff happening. There's some other older crops too, like those cabbages that are just beginning to truly form heads. So a lot of exciting stuff still to come. Check back. We'll have tons of updates, and happy gardening. Bye, guys.